There we go. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, friends and family of the Pip Sisters chat. Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good morning. Good morning for us, right?
Right. And today we want to talk to you guys about risk, reward, and how it relates to life, not just trading, right? Like everybody thinks. And today's topic is going to be pretty fun for us. Hopefully it's fun for you too.
I know it sounds like that wouldn't be a fun topic, but it is a fun topic and it gets you thinking, right? That's what I like conversations is just getting thinking about stuff. Exactly. Stuff you wouldn't normally think about, right?
Those are my favorites. The conversations that provoke thought.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So let's dive in. Let's talk first about investing and get that part out of the way because we've been talking a lot about investing, right? So when you're investing in whatever you decide to invest in, there always is that risk to reward factor. And it has a lot to do with like what is the risk you're going to take? Some of it, as Christy talked about yesterday, the day before, is risk tolerance, right? How tolerant are you of taking risk? And everybody's different. Like some people are so risky that they're not actually making calculated risks. They're actually gambling. And that's whether they're doing something inside of investing or even in life, right? Just stuff that they do in their life that's dangerous, maybe physically and, adventure sports and things like that. So it's about, calculated risk taking and how risky are you as a person? Like how tolerant are you of if you lose that money, how much are you willing to lose? Because we've talked about this before, no matter whether it's trading or investing, that's really the only thing you can control is how much you're willing to risk, right? How much you're willing to lose if this investment doesn't go your way. And not every investment is going to go to your way. Did you know that the majority of things that the rich invest in, they lose 9 out of 10? But their risk to reward is so huge and everything they get involved in that the number 10 makes up for all the other 9 losses, right? If you've ever read any of Robert Kiyosaki's books, he talks about what the rich invest in that the poor and the middle class cannot. And they're usually these things that are very, have these very strong, high risk to reward, but they lose most of the time. And they make people wealthy. And that's the thing that I think poor middle class, they don't understand is that you can lose more than you win and still be successful in things, right? And maybe we'll do a whole thing on that, right? So I like to talk a little bit about purple payday, which is when you take red and blue, it makes purple, right? Red is losses and blue is wins, right? So the other thing is how old are you, right? So if you're very young, there's a couple of different ways that you can go when it comes to investing. You can be more conservative actually because you have longer. You also can be a little more aggressive if that's your risk tolerance because you have longer to recoup for things like losses. But I know that like a lot of the younger people that are very savvy investing, they're actually kind of conservative in some ways because they know that, and I'm talking about like for the retirement fund, right? They've got 40 years to do the retirement fund. They don't have to risk the bank. All they got to do is put little amounts in every couple of weeks. If you're like my age, and this is when you start, I'm not quite 50 yet, right? I'm a 70s baby, which means I'm not 50 yet. Well, I'm 73, right? So for me, I have to be more aggressive because I was silly and didn't start young. So I have to, in my opinion, be a little bit more aggressive. Now, I'm not going to be crazy about it, but I'm going to be more aggressive. And then I'm going to educate myself on the things I invest in. So that's how we've been able to have like crazy crypto gains and things like that, because we've taken the time to invest in things that some people would consider to be risky, but I took my time to educate myself. And now if you're over 65, you may be starting to put your money back into more safer things because you're trying to retain now what it is that you saved up and invest in over the years, right? And it also has to do with your investment goals. Like I said, you have things that you're trying to make in the short term versus are you looking for retirement? And that's going to decide what the risk to reward is that are you risking this much and the reward is this? Is it worth it, if you will? So that's just a short, we could do a whole 3-day weekend seminar on investing risk reward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Now, have you guys really sat down and thought about like what something actually costs, the true cost of a purchase, right? Think about it. Like we are telling you guys about inflation, right? We're telling you about the rate of growth of money. So if you have like a $3 cup of coffee that you're purchasing, is it really $3 after taxes? Or are you considering the fact that it could possibly be less expensive for you to make on your own? Or because of inflation, what's that $3 going to look at or look for or look just look in like the next few months or years, just that same $3, what happens to that $3 over the course of a year? How many times are you buying that same $3 cup of coffee, right? Think about just some of the additional odds and ends that people don't typically think about when they're making purchases. Just because you spent $3 today, is that really the cost of that cup of coffee? Right? Start to look at stuff like that too. And if, like I said, we keep talking about putting your budget together and looking at all of those little odds and ends that you spend money on, and then cutting that in half to invest half of that money. Think about it like that too. That $3 cup of coffee, if you're doing that a couple days a month, let's say you're doing it 10 times a month, you're spending $30. Let's take that 30 and cut it in half. And now that $3 cup of coffee that actually probably costs us a couple cents to make at home, right? That $15 that we were able to put back into our investments is growing. So now that $3 cup of coffee is valued more mentally for us because we have gotten a better return off of it, right? And then what's the true reward of some of the purchases that you make, right? Like, are you actually, so my mentor, we went on a trip to Houston, right? And there was a mall across the street from our hotel. Uh-oh. And I have these shoes that I like. I walked past those shoes. I walked around those shoes. I tried on those shoes. And he kept asking me, in a couple months, are you going to be happy with these same shoes? Like in a couple months, because we're investing. We had crypto stuff that we were going into. Like, are you going to be happy with purchasing this pair of shoes? Right? Not expensive, but it was cute and I wanted them. But are you going to be happy with this purchase later on? Or could you put that money somewhere else? Now, don't judge my life, but I'm a girl and I have a shopping problem sometimes. So I did end up going back to the mall, getting those shoes, but I'm happy, right? So sometimes the reward for stuff is your happiness, but sometimes let's say the pair of shoes was $30. Let's say if I had to put that into something that had appreciating value, right? Maybe that $30 would have been a better reward placed somewhere else. So think about the rewards that you get for your purchases long after the purchase is over. Okay.
Yeah. And if you're, more advanced training, or investigation and research on your part, if you don't have a business, right? I don't care what kind of business it is. And, like you've gotten an LLC for your business. If let's say you go and get a $10 cup of coffee at Starbucks, you like that high end stuff. You got all this stuff in there, right? If you are just spending that money as an individual, and on the average, we're paying like 30% in taxes, that thing's costing you $13 just because of the tax situation, right? Not to mention everything else that Christina just talked about. But if you were buying that coffee because you were out to have a business meeting or whatever, right? Then now that's actually coming off your income and helping you pay less in taxes. So there's so many things to think about with risk to reward when it comes to our spending. What is the true cost of it? Like she said, what is the reward of that purchase? Are we actually getting, what we hoped out of the reward?
Yep.
Are you going to be happy with that new car you bought? You're so thrilled with it. The first 2, 3, 4 weeks and it comes old hat and you've had the car for 2 years and you're just like, right? So it's like you have to think about that stuff. And then, again, are you making these purchases as your business or you're just making them as your person? Because if you're just making all your purchases as just an individual person who pays taxes, it's costing you way more than you think.
Right.
I'm going to talk about something that is not very sexy, and that's insurance. Okay. And again, we are not financial advisors. I'm not an insurance agent or insurance broker. So I'm just going to give you some things to think about when it comes to insurance. Okay. So first of all, what is your risk factor when it comes to insurance? You're like, wait, what does that mean? Okay. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take someone like my mom, okay, who's retired, right? She doesn't really go out that much, right? She has her home. She travels some, just to visit people and things like that. She doesn't own any businesses. She doesn't own any real estate. Okay. Her risk factor is fairly low for getting like sued, let's say, right? Now, of course, if you're driving your car, you could get in an accident and things like that, right? So you're looking at your risk factor. Now, let's say have an individual and they own a bunch of rental properties, right? And they travel a lot for business. And they've got little kids at home that if something happened to them, they have to be provided for. Your risk factor is much higher. Okay, so you want to think about things like insurance. I mean, yes, you want to have your business structures, but what's the first thing that when you get sued, they look at, see if they can get any of your insurance money that you have. That's like your first line of defense when you get sued or somebody comes after you for an accident, either on your property or in a car, or right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, that's your first line of defense. So you look at like, what's my lifestyle? What's my family situation? Do I have under 18 dependents that, would really be devastated if something happened to me, or if we got sued and we lost everything, right? What's the likelihood I could get sued? Well, the more things you're participating in life,
right,
the more likely you are to end up in a lawsuit of some kind, right? Family, job, like what do you do? What are those entrepreneurial endeavors? If you're sitting in the basement trading Forex every day in your pajamas, that's a lot different than if you own a bunch of rental properties. Because if you own a bunch of rental properties, it's likely that somebody at some point may sue you because of whatever, who knows, right? So when you look at insurance, you have to look at, do you have enough insurance? And I was having a conversation with somebody, I won't say who it was, and she's like, well, I only paid this much for insurance. I can't believe you paid that much. Because I don't know how we started talking about insurance. And we were only talking about automobile insurance, right? So she's like, well, we have this little car. And I said, okay. But what she was doing was she was making sure that they had the minimums the state of Wisconsin requires here, right?
Yeah.
That was it. Well, let's hope you don't hit a Lamborghini, because it's not just about your car. You got liability or whatever. You don't have, you don't need to cover your car if you got an old car maybe. But what if you hit a Corvette? What if you hit a high-end vehicle and do major damage to it and you don't have enough coverage? Then you're going to get sued, right?
Yep.
So having the minimums on things is not necessarily a good way to go. It's a short-term thought process when it comes to insurance, because insurance is your first line of defense, right? You can also overdo it. And there's also things like an umbrella policy, right? Which kind of is a backup if over all of your insurance. But what a lot of people don't understand is if, let's say, I don't know, let's say you get in a car accident and your insurance doesn't cover a certain thing, the umbrella policy is not going to cover it either. But the umbrella cover only covers you if you were already covered by them for the insurance, and that wasn't enough, then they take from but if they denied it, the umbrella, so you have to know these things when you're going in. And so, but I recommend, and again, it's because I'm not an insurance person, not a financial advisor, is that you want to have a reputable insurance broker who can advise you. Now, a broker is different than an insurance agent. You want to have a broker. This is somebody who's going to help you financially plan. They're going to ask you if they're doing their job. They're going to ask you about your entire situation, and they're going to help plan with you, and they're going to find you the best insurance by searching many different companies. You don't want to have just an agent that you work with over at American Family. I know that they would love it if that was the case, and they're going to tell you why that you should you should go with them and only them, but they're only going to look through their American Family policies. And we also have found, since we started working with a broker instead of agents, a lot of the agents, they don't even know what to do. They have a manual, they read through it, and they don't even, they leave, like my broker said, they'll leave things in that are stupid and pull things out. Well, because somebody will say, I want this cheaper. Okay, well, we'll pull this out. She's like, you don't pull that out ever. That's something you absolutely need, but they'll pull it out for someone just to make the insurance cheaper. Yeah. Right. And so because they just want your business, where the broker, they want your business, but they want your business in most cases, if you find a good broker, by finding you the best coverage for the best price.
Right.
So that's why I recommend a broker. So back to you.
So what about time management, right? We have a lot to say about risk to reward. Risk to reward conversations involve time management as well, right? Is the amount of time that you're spending on one specific thing worth the reward that you're getting at the end of that activity, right? When you're at work, that 8 hours that you're spending a day, and let's say you work away from home, right? The 8 hours that you're spending, plus the 30-minute lunch, the 15-minute breaks that you don't get paid for. So we're already at 9 hours, plus the 30 minutes it takes for you to get there and the 30 minutes that it takes for you to get home, right? We're already at 10 hours. You got 10 hours out of your day, right? You sleep at least 8 hours, you're already 18 hours done. Now, if you are starting that side hustle, that other business, how much time do you have left? Because you have to factor in time with the family, cooking, eating, right? So now out of that 18 hours, we got like 23 hours that we're down, right? So from that job that you're going to and you're working away from home, is it to your benefit? Is it in line with that side hustle that you're starting, with that new business that you're starting, right? Have you taken those things into consideration? Or are you lucky enough to have a couple of days off during the week and you say, you know what, because I'm off of my job during this Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to dedicate 10 hours Saturday and 10 hours Sunday to my side hustle, to that extra source of income to kind of balance out your life, right? Are you getting the reward that you want for spending the time doing the thing, right? If you are exercising, are you exercising away from home? Or are you doing it at home, right? If you're away from home, I'm always going to go back to how long does it take for you to get from your house to the gym, right? Is some of the stuff that you're doing at the gym stuff that you could do at home, right? What does that look like for you? And then I love to cook. I absolutely love to cook. I love to feed people. But because of some of the stuff that I do, I know meal prepping and planning for the week is very important so that I'm not running around the house or the grocery store like a chicken with my head cut off trying to figure out what am I going to make today, right? I already have it planned out so that I can maximize the amount of time that I have during the day. I know Monday's spaghetti night. And because we had extra spaghetti, Tuesday might be leftovers, right? Because I have a lot of calls on Tuesday. That's why Sundays for me are not big dinner days. It's Monday, right? Or maybe you are on a specific diet or meal plan and you have somebody else do that for you. Now all of that time is freed up, right? So let's think about going back before about the cost of it. The cost of having somebody do the meal plan and prep your food and get everything together for you gives you how much time back. And then are you using that time wisely towards your business or the time that you need with your family or working, right? What does the reward look like for the things that you're doing? It's important to incorporate family time in everything that we do because you need to cultivate and build and maintain those relationships, right? But how much family time are you spending when you could be doing just a little bit of work, right? And sometimes showing up at those family events on time may not be beneficial, right? Maybe you need to be an hour late, right? If you can, because some stuff, if it's like a movie you guys are going to, just carve out the time. But there are instances where you can make that little change or that distinction in your schedule, right? And then are you dedicating time towards personal development? Are you doing your personal development while you're working on your business? So you're multitasking? Are you having a personal development coach help you? And are you actually doing the work, right? Are you getting the reward that you need from the activities that you're taking, right? And then don't forget to take a break. Trust me.
Yes, for sure.
You need to take a break. You are going to go full throttle into some stuff, but put up a couple stop signs in your schedule. And even if it's just 15 minutes of just standing up and stretching away from the computer, like I have one time every day during the week, so Monday through Friday, where because I have to go pick up Kevin, I actually do nothing for 30 minutes. I just listen to music and relax, or meditate and relax for 30 minutes. And that gives me a break between picking him up and getting his rundown of his day and then being mommy again. And then after that's over, getting back to work for myself for the rest of the day, right? Take those breaks, whatever that looks like for you is important. And sometimes, because multitasking is a thing for us moms, right? Sometimes our breaks come at the beginning of something that we're going to start or at the end of something that we just finished. So we got the work done, but we had a break right before so that we could go into it and relax, or we have a break right after so we can relax. So take into consideration the reward that you're getting when you're doing everyday activities. What does that look like? And how can you maximize the reward that you're getting?
Yeah, and I think the risk to reward and weighing out risk to reward with how you spend your time is one of the most important risk to reward things that you want to figure out. And a lot of times we don't even think about it. Why? Your time, once you risk it, it's gone. It is not replenishable.
Right.
Everything else that you do, money is replenishable. If you make a mistake or you would need to make a course correction in your business, that's cool. But your time, you will never get back, ever. So it's like thinking about how you're spending your time. Are you spending too much time on personal development? Are you getting more benefit by spending 4 hours a day on personal development? Or are you getting, if you do 30 minutes, you'll find that you might be getting the same benefit out of that, right? So it's like you're weighing that, because you're not going to get that time back. You just cannot replace it or replenish it. And I just saw a statistic on how much time we waste on average as an American a year. And I should have screenshot it because it was shocking to me. I guess maybe
like it was like other countries.
No, it was just in general. And it wasn't like a versus, but it was just like the average American spends this much time on procrastinating. And it was like
posted on our IG. So
I gotta find it. Because when I saw it, I went, oh my gosh, because like, and how procrastination is a thing as well, right? So we already talked about that being a self-sabotaging thing, but that's also wasting your time on a risk versus reward situation.
Well, we'll keep everybody in the loop. We'll make a post and put it on IG. So if you guys are following us on IG, you'll be able to see these crazy statistics.
They are crazy. And the last thing I want to talk about, you can take risk reward and put it into anything. So what I want to do is talk about conversations and risk reward when it comes to conversations, something not as tangible as I can measure my investments, right? I put this much money in and then I made this much or I lost this much. And it's very tangible that you can look at the numbers, right? When we look at something like conversations, right? So let's talk about tough conversations. We all have, at some point in our lives, knew that we were going to have a tough conversation with somebody, whether it's a fellow employee, a coworker, a boss, a kid, a spouse, a significant other, a parent, whatever. And this is probably one of the few times we did weigh risk versus reward and didn't realize it. Because we're thinking about, I need to have this conversation, what's going to happen. And our mind goes crazy. And it's like thinking about all the different ways this conversation can go and how should we word it. But it's definitely weighing out, like when it comes to tough conversations, yes, you should think about, how can I say this in a way that is going to be productive for both of us? I'm going to do my best to be a best communicator I can be. But also when you're thinking about the risk, you have to think about, well, I'm risking this, maybe that I'm going to end up divorced if I have this conversation, or I'm going to end up we're not going to be friends anymore, or I'm going to get fired, right? You want to weigh that out, but then you also need to weigh out what's the risk if I don't have the conversation, right? Because nobody likes to have tough conversations. Like my husband says, oh, I don't like confrontation. I said, you know what? Most people don't like confrontation. We all know a couple people who actually really love it and thrive on it, but most people do not like confrontation. But a lot of people have learned that they do need to be assertive, and you can do that in a kind way.
Right.
And that sometimes those consequences mean that you lose relationships, but they know that they need to be true to themselves. So what's the benefit of having the conversation? What's the benefit of if they don't have it? Weighing out those tough conversations. Then we have conversations that we have business conversations that can borderline into personal conversations. And I know, and for me, some of the best friends that I've had and have people I've met have come from this business, right? Working online. People like Christina, I haven't even met in person, right? So it's what you have to be careful of is you're having a conversation for business. You've allocated 7 o'clock to 7:30. Did you spend 25 minutes talking about personal stuff?
Exactly.
Right? So the risk to reward of having conversations, and also the risk to reward of creating rules for things like, okay, we're going to talk for a couple minutes and then we got to dive in to the conversation. Right. I hear a lot of people say small talk is a waste of time. And it can be in certain situations. There are conversations where you need to just get to it. Right. But if you're in business, small talk and learning, the art of small talk is important because number one, you need to build rapport with people. You're not going to build rapport just getting to the facts. It's just, you want to have it's a skill set. Small talk is a skill set because some people are better at it than others. Some people are really good at it, aren't good at it in the right way. They can small talk you to death all day, but they don't know how to transition into let's get this stuff done now. Right. So the risk of like weighing out the risk, if I have this conversation, is it frivolous? Is it getting me anywhere? And that's like the group, any kind of conversation, but small talk isn't necessarily a frivolous conversation. Think about risk to reward with your time with conversations, kind of putting it together with what Christina was just talking about. If you can get the same thing accomplished that you need to tell 10 people, can you do it on a Zoom? Can you do it in an email to the whole group? Right. I have somebody I'm following right now to learn a new marketing method, and he has everybody email him his questions throughout the week, and he does one Zoom a week. And you have to email him the question though. And then he goes through all the questions on the Zoom. And that is a good risk to reward, right? Because imagine if he wrote back every single person, or he got on the phone or a text or a message or with every single person asking questions. So he's let people know this is how you communicate with me for this particular topic.
Yep.
You can email it to me and we will do a Zoom on Wednesday. Please attend, right? Or catch the recording, right? And then quality of conversations is a thing. And this spills over into family and, your spouse, your significant other. Sometimes we don't realize that certain conversations might seem like they're not all that quality, especially like maybe with our kids sometimes, but weighing out, not having certain conversations. So I'll just throw this out there. I have some, people might think are weird conversations with my 9-year-old son, but I'm looking for the reward of these type of conversations. I'm hoping they pay off when he's a teenager. I'll give you an example. There's there's 3 different things, but I'll talk about 2 of them. One of the things that I ask him periodically is I will say to him, right now, you can tell me anything that I did that made you upset. And whatever you say, I will not be angry with you. Mm-hmm. Right. So he's thinking about this is the latest one. Okay. He does this whole, he finally says to me, well, I really don't like it when you ask me questions while I'm playing my video game. And I'm like, okay. And why am I doing that? Because first of all, and what's the risk? The risk is he's going to say something to me one of these days is going to really hurt my feelings. Right. Right. And then I've hurt his feelings and he's going to let me know. Right. And so that's part of the risk. The reward I'm looking for is that we can continue this open relationship when things get tougher as he gets older. The other thing that I let him do is I tell him that we have we don't do this every week. I do it periodically. Also, you can tell me anything you want about something in your life, and I won't be mad at you, even if you say a curse word, right? So I'm going to swear on here, just so you know. I'm going to warn you if you don't like
parental advisory.
Right, parental advisory if you don't like to hear swearing. But I said to him, you can say whatever you want to me right now. I want you to know anything in your life that you think that if you thought I would be mad about it, but you can just tell me anything. You can say anything. So he thinks about it for a while and he says, shit. That was it. So why am I doing that? Because I'm hoping, again, that later on in life, when he's got something that he thinks I'm going to be super upset about, but he really needs somebody to be there for him, that he's going to come to me because he knows that I will not judge him or be angry with him. I want to be able to pick him up at the party that he drank too much at, rather than he gets in a car with his friends who are drunk, right? And so these are these little things that it's a risk to reward thing. What am I risking? Again, I'm risking he's going to tell me something that might hurt my feelings. I'm also risking that I just let him swear. And, you know, most people are not happy about a 9-year-old swearing, right? But it's like, that's a risk to reward thing. And what does he do? He giggles the whole time that he finally says it, because he thinks it's funny, because he knows he's not supposed to say it, right? And he's not sure if I'm going to do something about it. Right. And I don't know what he's going to say. And then he ends up cursing. Right. And that was it. One word. And that was what he wanted to unveil. So conversations are a thing when it comes to risk to reward. I'm going to risk this conversation, whether it's, I could be wasting my time. I could be possibly losing a friend, losing a relationship over this, losing a job, losing a partnership, losing a contact. There's always a risk to any kind of conversation, but you're also risking your time. Yep. So do I really need to have this conversation today? Is it going to be beneficial to me? So,
and is this the appropriate time for this conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it may not be.
Yeah. Like you might need to have it, just not right then.
Mm-hmm.
I love that though. Like, I love that. Like, so fun fact for you guys from me, and do your research. We always tell you, do your research, right? But a lot of intelligent people curse. And if you give kids the freedom to say what's on their mind, typically if it involves curse words, they won't do it very much.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've already gotten it out of their system. It's not a taboo thing. So I like that. Cause like I have a similar thing when me and my son go on walks. Like while we're on this walk, while we're out in this space, you have all of this space around you to just air out everything. And we usually take like a 30-minute walk and we just talk about everything. And we do it maybe like once a week, once every 2 weeks. But it's so that he can, like Chrissy said, you can have that relationship where if something happens, your children are not afraid to come to you. Right. So I love that. And like she said, like I've had some conversations and I've been like, oh, I didn't know, but you know, you're more rich for knowing. Right. But that is going to wrap us up today. We have risk to reward conversations every time we bring topics to you.
When we do this show, we take a risk, right? We're risking our time. We're risking that we'll get trolled. We're risking all kinds of stuff. What's the reward? It's not always tangible. Yes, we are building our income and our empire, and we're looking to build multiple income streams and share that information with you. But we also get to spend time with each other every day. We get to spend time with you. That's the reward. It's things sometimes that aren't as tangible. You know, you're like, I can't really put my fingers on it, but you know, we have to maintain our own research and our own, doing, like when you teach stuff, you got to learn stuff.
Yep.
You got to learn stuff to teach stuff. Right. So there's a risk to reward with everything that we do, even if you're not thinking about it. So if you're more, if you're paying attention more, right? If you don't let everything happen so subconsciously, be conscious about the risk to reward situations that you're in, because all day long, you're spending time doing something. That's a risk to reward situation all day, all day with the stuff you do.
Yep.
So
now I hope you guys are having an awesome and productive day, night, evening, and we will see you guys in the next video, but don't forget to subscribe to Pips for Brunch, our newsletter, so that you don't miss out on the extra sauce that we don't give out on the podcast live. Okay?
Sometimes we give stuff away in those letters, so don't miss it.
We do, like PDFs and everything, and you might not even know you missed it. Don't let yourself miss it.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.